Good morning, guys. How are you today? Good? Ready for social studies class? But before starting our class, let's pray. So, bow your heads and close your eyes. Dear Jesus in heaven, we thank you for one more day of life. Thank you for your company, for being by our sides, for giving us protection, food, health, shelter, but most of all, for giving us love and your pardon and mercy. Thank you for all the good things that we have in our life. Help us to count always our blessings in our life. Help my students and their families to trust in you. You have the control of everything in our life. Be with us because we ask you this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Today we are going to be learning Chapter 3, Lesson 3, Pilgrims and Puritans in New England. Pilgrims and Puritans in New England. We are going to be talking about two groups of English people that came to America looking for something special. And I want you to go to your social studies book, page 80. Open your social studies book, page 80. In there, you are going to see, in this picture, food, right? And by here, a boat. This is very representative for a special holiday that American people or North American people in the United States celebrate. And that is Thanksgiving celebration. Have you ever heard about that? Thanksgiving Day? Yes, right? Even we have celebrated at school because we are a bilingual school, so we have to know about the customs of the country, which language we are learning to. We are learning. So, in that special day, what they do is a special dinner to give thanks to the Lord for all the blessings they have. And they call that day Thanksgiving Day. But that tradition started many, many years ago. And let me tell you how. There was a country in Europe, a country called England, in which there was only one church. And all people in England was forced to follow the rules of that church only. They couldn't practice other religion. There was a group of people that were not happy with that decision because they considered there were some things or some rules that were not right, and they wanted religious independence. They wanted to practice their own religion, but they couldn't do it in England. So one group of 102 people took a boat from England. Here you can see Europe. England is in Europe. So they took a boat and they were navigating or sailing to America, North America. And why? Because they hoped to find in North America religious freedom. They wanted to be free to practice the religion they wanted to practice. And this special boat that you can see here also in your books was called, it had a name. That boat was the Mayflower ship. And in that boat, 102 people were traveling from England to America. So now I want you to underline what I'm going to underline in the text. We are going to be underlining the most important information, okay? The first event that we are going to underline is this one that we have in here. The year was 1620. This event, the Pilgrim journey, took place in 1620. But before they coming to America, there was another settles that came before. They were the Jamestown settles. So I want you to underline this. The Jamestown settles had hoped to find two things in America: riches and what else? And money. They wanted to find riches and money, but the Pilgrims, the one that came in the Mayflower ship, they were looking for something different to in the Americas. They were looking for, okay, I want you to read here. The Mayflower settles also expected to earn money, but they had a more important goal. They had something more important in mind. They wanted what? Freedom to practice their religion. Also, I want you to underline the name they received in England they were called separatists. Okay? Why? Because they wanted to separate or break off from the Church of England. Page 81. And let's read this. Because these separatists set off to build a new religious life in America, they later became known as Pilgrims. First they were called separatists, and now as they started a new life in another place, they were called Pilgrims. And here we have the definition of pilgrim. A pilgrim, that is one of the vocabulary words of this page. Pilgrim, let's repeat after me. Pilgrim. Pilgrim. What is a pilgrim? And I want you to underline the definition of a pilgrim. Is a person who goes on a religious journey. So there you have it. Is a person who goes in a religious journey. So underline that definition. Here we have the pilgrims. As you can see, there you can see the kind of clothes they were using. Women and men, they were using that kind of cloth that you can see in the picture. These people, the pilgrims, were traveling by 2 months in the Mayflower ship, and they found 2 dangerous storms in the ocean. And originally, they wanted to go to the northern of Virginia. But because of the storm and the winds, the boat was brought to another place, Plymouth Rock. In that place, they decided to stop the journey because they were very tired of being in the ocean. They were very hungry. Some of them were very sick, and the winter was coming, so they decided to stop in that place. But before coming out from the boat, the men, the pilgrim, started to write a document that later was called the Mayflower Compact. And here you can see the other vocabulary word, that is the Mayflower Compact. Here you can see it was a document or agreement about how they would govern themselves. So in that document, that it was like this one that you have in here, they were writing which rules were going to govern them in the new land. So in here, in number 1, this is the first question that we are going to answer, says, fill in the Venn diagram, this one, to compare and contrast goals of the Pilgrims and the Jamestown settles. Remember the Pilgrims and the Jamestown settles. Before this page, remember that in here we had the Jamestowns and the Mayflower settles or Pilgrims. So what were the purpose or the goals for Jamestown settles to come to America? They wanted what? Riches and money. And the Pilgrims, they wanted what? Freedom in religion. So let's answer. The Pilgrims came for religious freedom, and Jamestown Settles came to find riches and money. Both of them came to America, but the Pilgrims for religious freedom and Jamestown Settles for money and riches. Let's continue, guys, in page 82. Go to page 82, and in there, if you can see question number 2, you are going to find the first homework of this class for you. Number 2 is homework for you, but first let's see what the most important information that we have in this paragraph. The Pilgrims and Native Americans. Okay, so I want you to underline this, and let's underline it, and then let's read it. And it says, the Pilgrims settled in a place they call Plymouth. Plymouth. This land was once home to the Wampanoag. The Wampanoag people were a group of Native Americans. But when Pilgrims came to Plymouth, they found no one living in that place. So they supposed people that were living in that place, maybe they died because of some diseases that some other visitors brought to them, or maybe they had moved away. The leader of the Pilgrims was a man that was called William Bradford. He was the leader of the Pilgrim. And Squanto was a member of the Native American group, the Wampanoag group, and he spoke English very well. So they were communicating, and if you can see in this picture of here, do you think they are being friendly or not? Here we have Squanto, and here we have William Bradford. Do you think they are being friendly, or they are discussing? They are being friendly, and let me tell you why. When Squanto met the Pilgrims and the Pilgrims met the Native Americans, they did like a deal. So here we have William Bradford, the leader of the Pilgrims, and here we have Squanto, that was a member of the Wampanoag Native American group, and they were having a friendly relationship. Squanto was a man from the Native American group that helped the Pilgrims. Why? Because when the Pilgrims came to America, they found that the plants, do you remember the Columbian Exchange? They found that the plants they had in that place were different from the one that they were used to eat in England. So Squanto said to William Bradford, okay, I will help the Pilgrims. I will teach them how to raise food, how to plant corn, and how to fish also, how to get the food they are going to need. And William Bradford said to Squanto that Pilgrims were going to give Native Americans protection. So in here, guys, let's go to number 2. This is something that you have to do. It says study the map. Here you have a map. You can see it better in your books. Write why the Pilgrims settled in Plymouth rather than where they landed originally. So here we have Cape Cod that had a poor soil, and it says original Mayflower landing site. So why did they prefer to stay in Plymouth and not in Cape Cod? Why? Look in Plymouth. In Plymouth it says better farm land. So why do you think they prefer Plymouth than Cape Cod? Write the reason in here. This is for you. Let's go now to page 83. I want you to go to page 83. And here we have the subtitle, Working and Celebrating Together. By this side we have William Bradford, the leader of the Pilgrims. And by here we have Massasoit. Maybe it was the leader of the Native American people. If you can see, this man looks very different from this one. And it says two different cultures. Even though it says in here that they were working and celebrating together. How is that possible? Do you think we can work and celebrate with someone that is different from us? It's possible that or not? Yes, it's possible. It has to be possible. We are going to find in our life people that think different from us, people that act different from us, that have different culture, different beliefs, but we have to accept those people the way they are. So that was the secret why the Pilgrims and Native Americans were working and celebrating together. They were helping each other. So I want you to underline here some important information that I'm going to give. So this one is the first one. A translator helps people who speak different languages to understand each other. Remember that I told you that the Pilgrims couldn't communicate with Native Americans because Pilgrims were talking English and Native Americans were talking a different language. So Squanto, do you remember Squanto in the previous slide, right? Squanto was a man that understood very well English language. So Squanto served as a translator. William Bradford, the leader of the Pilgrims, and Massasoit, the leader of the Wampanoag people, were doing an agreement. They said, we are going to help each other. So I want you here to underline what was the help that Pilgrims received from Native Americans and what help Native Americans received from the Pilgrims. So let's continue reading in here and let's underline which one was the benefits they received from each group. So here you have it, okay? Massasoit, the leader of the Native American people or the leader of the Wampanoag people, said to William Bradford, okay, we are going to help you or help Pilgrims to start farms and raise food. So here you have it. The Pilgrims received help from the Native Americans starting farms and raising food. Remember that they were arriving to a new land and they didn't know how to work that land. The Wampanoag people were happy to gain military support from the Pilgrims. The Wampanoag people had some enemies in the surroundings and Pilgrims said, okay, if you help us how to plant corn and how to plant pumpkins, for example, we are going to give you protection. So each one of them were helping. The Pilgrims were receiving help in how to get food and the Wampanoag people were receiving help in military support or protection. So Pilgrim people started to work very hard, planting and In 1621, 1 year later from the year that they arrived to America, they had a very good harvest. Do you know what is a harvest? Is what you have at the end after planting. You first plant, then you wait for the plant to grow, and then when what you have planted gives you fruits, that is the harvest, la cosecha. Okay? So, they had a very, very good harvest in 1621. So, it was in the fall, in the autumn. So that's why Thanksgiving celebration is in November. They celebrate it in November. Why? Because it's in that stage of the year, the fall, when they were harvesting. And they decided to make a very big banquet, a very big feast, like the one that you see here. Look, they were celebrating because they were so very thankful. Why? They were thankful because they started a new life in America where they could practice the religion they wanted to practice. They were thankful because they found people like the Native Americans who were helping them. So when they did the banquet, do you think they invited the Native people or not? Yes, they invited Native Americans. So let's underline that also. Here we have it. In 1621, in the fall, the Pilgrims held a feast or banquet of Thanksgiving. They invited their Wampanoag friends to celebrate with them. So let's see number 3, and after number 3 you are going to listen to a song that talks about the Pilgrims. So number 3 says, study the chart, then answer this question. This is the chart that you have to study. Why did the Wampanoag and Pilgrims get along despite their differences? In other words, how is possible that Wampanoag people and Pilgrims were friends if they were completely different? Why do you think they were friends? They could be friends even when they were totally different. So let's see here the differences. Pilgrims, land ownership. For Pilgrims, property owned by whole group, later by families. And in the Wampanoag people, lands for hunting and fishing belonged to the group. About the religion, the Pilgrims were practicing Christianity based on the Bible. And the Wampanoag people believed living things had a spiritual connection. So they had different beliefs. Clothing, also they were wearing different clothes. Looking here, he is wearing totally different from Massasoit. And you can see it in the picture here also. Food. The Pilgrims were eating biscuits, meat from game. In difference, the Wampanoag people were eating corn, squash, beans, fish, deer, turkeys, and other game. So why do you think they were friends even when they were different? They were helping each other. Excellent. So even though they had a lot of differences, they were helping each other, and the Pilgrims didn't force the Native Americans to believe what they believed, and Native Americans didn't force them also to do what they were doing. So here we have the answer. Each group provided something the other needed. The Wampanoag helped the Pilgrims to feed themselves. The Pilgrims helped the Wampanoag people to protect them from attack. even though or despite our differences with our classmates and with our friends, we can find that we can help each other. You are going to need something that might others have, and they are going to need maybe something that you have. So what we have to learn to do is to cooperate with others. Okay, now guys, I want you to go to page 84. And here we have another question that is homework for you. Question number 4 is homework for you. But let's see. In page 84 we have life at Plymouth Plantation. Okay, so here you have what I want you to underline. First, we are going to underline the first phrase that you have in there. And it says, the Pilgrims had to work hard to grow food. Remember that they didn't know how to plant, but they received help from the Wampanoag people. So here we have adults working hard to plant. So they were working hard to plant and to build their houses. But even children had to help. So I want you to read here that children had little time for play. Imagine. They didn't have time for, well, they had, but they had little time for play. But listening here, and you are going to say, oh, I want that. Although they didn't have to attend school. They were not going to school. Young people were expected to work. So what is better? Going to school or not going, but being just working and working and working? Because they were not just wasting time at home. They were not going to school, but they were helping their parents to raise food or to plant. By here in this picture is what you have to look. Number 4 says, Pilgrims built their small houses out of materials they found nearby. So when they arrived to Plymouth, they started to look around in the surroundings, and with the materials they found in that place, they started to build their houses. So it says, write a list of materials the Pilgrims may have used for their houses. So in here, in this space, you are going to write, for example, look at this picture. Here we have the fence. This is the fence of the houses. It is made of what? So write the material here. Look in this. The walls of the houses, the walls, were done of what? Or were made of what? So write the material in here. And also look at this. How do you call this? What material is this? For the roof of the houses. So write the material here. So you have to investigate what is the name of this material, what is the name of this material, and what is the name of this material. So write them in here, and those materials were the ones that they used to build their houses. Now guys, let's go quickly to page 85. Page 85. And in there we are going to find another vocabulary word. And this one is indentured servant. Let's repeat after me. Indentured servant. Again, indentured servant. Okay, and what was an indentured servant? So I want you to underline what an indentured servant was. There you have it. An indentured servant was a servant. Is someone who agrees to work without pay or without receiving payment for someone else for a set time. In return, the servant receives food, clothing, and shelter. So here we have in this picture an example. This woman of here is the indentured servant. And this person is the person for the one she works for. She is working for this man. She is the servant, and he is the patron or the landowner. Okay? So remember that these people, the Pilgrims, were escaping from England and were coming to America. But many of them didn't have money to pay for the journey, for the ship, the Mayflower. But they wanted to go to America to have a new life because they also wanted to be free. So they were doing an agreement. So she said, I will work for you for free without payment. Just take me with you to the Americas. I will work for you. Just you have to provide me house, food, and shelter, clothing, okay? And clothing. I want you to analyze this graphic that we have in here. This one was the year in which the Pilgrims came from England to America. Do you remember how many people were in the Mayflower ship? 102, okay? So 102 was in 1620. But in 1621, the population or the amount of pilgrims decreased. Looking here in 1621 was only 50, the half. Why? Remember that they had difficult moments. They suffered from hunger, some diseases, and many of them died. That's why the population decreased in this year. But looking here, in 1630, 9 years later, what happened with the population? Increased. 400 people or pilgrims were in 1630s. So the population increased. Now guys, number 5 says, read the information in the graphic organizer in this chart that you have in here. Then answer the following question. If you were a young person in England, why would you become an indentured servant? Imagine that you were in England. You are young, you don't have money, and you accept to become an indentured servant. Why would you going to accept to become an indentured servant? Remember, what were the reasons why indentured servants accepted to be a servant without payment? Why? Because you wanted to escape from England and to come to what place? To America to have what? A new opportunity and freedom to practice religion, okay? So let's answer. It would be a way for me to get to America and eventually to start a new life there as a free person. Let's go to page 86. The Massachusetts Bay Colony. Okay, now you are going to see a video that is a song that talks about the Pilgrims.
It certainly would have been interesting to be one of the first Pilgrims. Let's journey with them on the Mayflower.
First the Pilgrims, they left England because they wanted to be free. The way that they were doing things, they said, hey, that's not for me. They were the Pilgrims, they were the Pilgrims. They sailed across the sea. They were the Pilgrims, they were the Pilgrims. They sailed in a big, big boat. Mayflower. Travel overseas was difficult. It was not a happy boat ride. But after many bumpy days of sickness and storms, they reached the other side. They were the Pilgrims, they were the Pilgrims. They sailed across the sea. They were the Pilgrims, they were the Pilgrims. They sailed in a big, big boat. Mayflower, that spells Mayflower. Then they met the Wampanoags, Squanto helped them plant food to eat. In the autumn of 1621, for many days they had a feast. They were the Pilgrims, they were the Pilgrims. They sailed across the sea. They were the Pilgrims, they were the Pilgrims. They sailed in a big, big boat. Mayflower, that spells Mayflower.
Okay guys, now let's go to page 86. Did you like the song of the Pilgrims? It was very fun and also very beautiful, right? So, do you remember what was the title of this lesson? Pilgrims and Puritans. And I told you we were going to talk about two groups, the Pilgrims and the Puritans. So I want you to read this title. It says, the Massachusetts Bay Colony. It was a colony that was formed by another group that came from England, but it was not by the Pilgrims. So this group was formed by some people that were known as the Puritans. And here you can see the kind of clothes they were using. They were called the Puritans. So in page 86, here we have the most important details about the Puritans. In 1630, a group of 700 English settlers, they were coming also from England, left their homes to sail to New England in America. They were known as Puritans. The Puritan leader was a man that was called John Winthrop, and he was very strict. He wanted the new colony to be a city upon a hill. And what is that? What is a city upon a hill? That means that this man, the leader of the Puritans, wanted this city of the Puritans to be an example for others to follow. So religion was very important for them. But different from the Pilgrims, remember that for Pilgrims, religion was something very important also. That's why they escaped from England to come to America to practice their religion. But Pilgrims didn't force anyone to practice their religion. And Puritans did something different from Pilgrims, because they did force the others to practice their religion. Even if someone disobeyed the rules of the church, that person was punished in public. If you can see here in this picture, this is a man that disobeyed the rules of the church, and he received a public punishment. As you can see here, all people is looking at him being punished. So they were very strict, and they had conflicts with Native Americans. So number 6 is something that you have to do. It says explain what kind of behavior John Winthrop expected in this city upon a hill. So in here, what you are going to answer is how John Winthrop expected the people from his city to behave. As what? As, here you have it. City of Ponahigo was a city that had to be what? And exactly, so there you have it, just answering here. I'm not going to give you the answer, I already helped you. So just reading here again for you to answer question number 6. The Puritans believed strongly in education also. So they believed in religion but also in education. They built America's first public schools and libraries. Also, the Puritans founded Harvard College, the famous university that now we know as Harvard University, were the Puritans the one who founded it to train church leaders. So in first place, Harvard University was formed to train church leaders. Now they have a lot of careers and programs, but in first instance, that one was the purpose of that college. Now, question number 7. It says categorize. Circle any answers that would belong in a paragraph about the Massachusetts Bay Colony. So, if you read the Massachusetts Bay Colony paragraph about the Puritans, you are going to be able to answer these options that you have in here. For example, it was true that Puritans established schools for children and even a college? Yes or no? So if it's true, you have to circle letter A. If not, don't do anything. Letter B, always had good relations with Native Americans? Yes or no, the Puritans? So remember what I explained you, and if not, read, okay? So, C, were very strict if people broke rules? Yes or no? So if it's true, circle letter C. If not, don't do anything. And letter D, had to deal with starvation and disease. Did they have those problems when they were traveling from England to America? Or just the Pilgrims? Just you have to, so remember you have to read if you do not remember. So the ones that are true about the Puritans, you have to circle them. And I will help you. 2 of them are true about the Puritans. So 2 of them, you have to circle them. Which ones? I don't know, you have to read, okay? So, guys, this is all for today. I will be waiting for your homework and have a nice day. Blessings.